Good job for us. Along with that.
Yeah, congratulations.
You
Sherry?
look scared.
Sorry.
No, don't.
Sherry, would you take the roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Schmitz?
Yes.
Ms. Tornatore?
Here.
Mr. Lilly?
Yes.
Mr. Horian?
Here.
Mr. Deloche?
Here.
Mr. Mazuski is also here. Ms. Groot is excused.
Okay, thank you. Next item is approval of the planning and zoning minutes of April 11th, 2022.
I motion to approve the minutes of meeting.
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Our next item is a quasi-judicial hearing. First item on that is a variance ZV 1202-2016, the Max Beach Resort, 1903 South Atlantic Avenue. Stuart?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. For the record, my name is Stuart Cruz, Community Service Director with the City of Daytona Beach Shores.
And hopefully planner.
Yes. So, unfortunately, there was an error in terms of meeting the requirements for the due public notice requirements pursuant to Section 2-2 of the city's Land Development Code for both this item and the second item, item B, on the agenda. And as such, based on the conversation I've had with the applicant, there is a request by the applicant and by staff to continue this to the next Planning and Zoning Board meeting, which I believe is July 18th. 2022. So as you may remember, board members, the due public notice requirements, the responsibility of meeting those requirements for applications such as this and the following one are the responsibility of the applicants, and unfortunately there was a minor error in meeting that requirement, and as such they've made the request to the city and staff supports continuing the meeting until July 18th, 12th?
18th.
18th.
No, 18th.
18th.
Do we need to approve that, Sherry?
Yes, we need a motion, please.
A motion to approve the continuance.
I'll second it.
Who made the
I
motion?
make a motion.
Oh, I mean,
Somebody got to make a motion.
I make a motion, we approved it.
Okay.
And
I'll second.
You'll second, okay.
Now, I did have a request for Rick Harmon to speak on this. Does he still wish to?
I believe they've left.
Okay. All right, next item is,
All in favor of
oh, yes,
continuing?
I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? None.
You see what happens when we miss one meeting?
We forget everything. Next item is an action item, a regular site plan, RSP 210-22005, surf-style beachwear / surf shop.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt, but may I ask a question of legal counsel? Do the motions have to be separate for both items to be continued? Attorney Carey?
No,
Okay.
no, as long as they get it on the record that they're talking about both.
Okay.
That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, 22.
And I should also add, as long as they're being continued to the same date.
Correct.
If you're going to do them to different dates, you want.
Correct. They're both going to be the same day. Thank you. Apologize.
Okay, Stuart, you want to talk about this beach surf style?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning again, board members. For the record, my name is Stuart Cruz, Community Service Director with the City of Daytona Beach Shores. The application that you see before you at this moment is RSP 120-22005, which is a surf-style retail store proposed to be located at 2226 South Atlantic Avenue. The property owner and applicant is 2226 South Atlantic Avenue, LLC, which is also the owner of the surf-style franchise, or I'm sorry, surf-style company here that's going to be located here in Daytona Beach Shores, but also in Florida and other parts of Southeast Florida, Southeast United States as well. The project coordinator is Zev Cohen and Associates. We have two representatives from there today. The property size is 1.8 acres. The proposed use, as I mentioned earlier, is a retail store, 18,200 square feet. The zoning for the property is a little bit unique in the sense that the front parcel is GCRD, but the rear parcel is GC1. And so the analysis that staff conducted essentially looked at both of those requirements with regards to what is being proposed there. And if you look in your staff memo, you'll see a detailed analysis of the site development requirements for both the zoning and the landscape requirements as well. And this exhibit that you see here at this moment is just a summary of that. And as you can see, all the requirements have been met in terms of the use, lot coverage, building height, number of parking stalls required, green area. There's actually no green area requirement under any of those zoning districts, but the developer is proposing almost 30%. In terms of due public notice and comprehensive plan consistency, those requirements have been met. The requisite staff have reviewed the proposed site plan, and when the staff report was created and when this PowerPoint was created, all the requirements were met. And I will bring up one issue that has popped up, I believe it was Thursday or so, and I'll speak about that briefly. But before I get into that, this is an overview of an aerial of the property. As you can see, it's currently vacant. Some of you may remember this property is just to the west of the Akotiki Best Western Resort and Tropical Manor, and it's just south of 7-Eleven, in between Bonner and Lindley Avenue on the west side and the 2200 South Atlantic block. This is a illustration of the site plan. As you can see, the store is actually going to be located on the southeast corner of the property. And as you can see, the parking is going to be on the north side and on the west side of the property. There's going to be two access onto the property. If you look on the northeast side, you can see one from A1A, and then there's also a connected driveway to 7-Eleven. There's going to be a surface retention pond, as you can see on the west side or the left-hand side of the exhibit. And there's also going to be an underground stormwater system that basically they both connect to each other. So the way the plan is provided right now, there is a pop-out for additional stormwater runoff to go into the Robin Terrace stormwater system, but I'll talk about that in a little bit. So in terms of the landscape plan, all the requirements are met. In fact, they're actually exceeded. As you can see, 37 trees are required, but they're actually putting in additional, they're putting 47 trees. And when I say 47 trees, it's not just a simple difference of 10. It's actually a combination of palm trees and woody trees, or trees that are non-palms. But the way we do the math here in Daytona Beach Shores, where 3 palms is equal to 1 tree, is actually more than a difference of 10. So it's gonna look unlike any commercial property in Daytona Beach Shores in terms of the landscaping. As I mentioned earlier, there's no green area requirement. However, up to 23% of the property is going to be landscaped with green area. This is a east elevation, meaning South Atlantic Avenue view of what the building is going to look like, and this is the north side elevation of what it's going to look like. And so the item that I was mentioning earlier is a stormwater comment from the city of Daytona Beach. So Daytona Beach reviewed the site plan because they provide water, and because for this particular area, you may recall that any property that is north of Thames Avenue, the city of Daytona Beach provides water for that. Anything south of it, it would be the city of Port Orange. And so they reviewed the water plans, and they also reviewed the stormwater plans, and they had a comment with regards to the stormwater connection that I mentioned earlier. If you look on the west side of the property, which would be the left-hand side, you see the stormwater retention pond connects for overflow in the event of a major storm into Robin Terrace. Well, the stormwater system in Robin Terrace, it's my understanding from the city of Daytona Beach, is a closed system, and they feel that it would not be able to accommodate any additional flow into that system. And as such, they made a comment about it. I've spoken to the project engineer who's here today, and they feel that they can revise the site plan adequately enough to address the additional water that would have run off into Robin Terrace. And I'm sure if you have any questions, he'll be happy to answer those for you. And so staff is recommending approval contingent upon addressing the reference stormwater outfall issue. If there's any questions for me, I'll be happy to take those. But in terms of the next steps, assuming that the stormwater issue is addressed, the next public hearing would be with the City Council on July 12th at 6 p.m. And then after that, there will be a building permit application submission to the building department, and that will be reviewed. And then, of course, acquisitions of non-city permits, and then a certificate of occupancy whenever all those issues are addressed consistent with state law and the Florida building code, and thereafter would be construction. So, if there's any questions for me, I'll be happy to take those, and I know that the applicant representative is here from Zevco, and they would be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I have one question, Stuart. First of all, will there be a monument sign
Yes, there will be.
as well as the signs on the building?
Yes.
Does that happen to meet or exceed any of the sign limits of the city?
So generally at the site plan stage, we only look at the location of the monument sign. We don't get into the actual details. Typically, it's contracted out to an actual sign company. The engineering firm typically doesn't do that as part of their purview. But what I can show you is right here, just if I can get the mouse circle, right here, south of the driveway is where the monument sign is going to be located. And based on the location, it looks like it meets all the locational requirements for monument signs. And as you can see in the elevations that I just got there, you can see that they have some wall signage as well. And those will be permitted through the building department whenever the building plans are submitted.
Okay, so all the sizings will be figured out then?
I'm sorry?
All the sizings will be figured out at that point?
Yes.
Okay.
You're approving, if the board makes a positive recommendation today, it will be for the site plan and not for signage per se. Thank you.
Does anybody in the board want to hear from Zev Cohen's representatives on this project, since we had no other comments?
No, I don't.
Sorry you guys had to come for nothing. Okay.
You already bought the property?
Property's been purchased, yes, sir.
There's only going to be one building on there?
Yes, sir.
You're gonna have him come up and give his name and address and all that good stuff.
Coach with Zev Cohen and Associates, 300 Interchange Boulevard, Ormond Beach, Florida. Yes, sir, there will be one building, 18,200 square feet. And that's actually the reason why we're having to go through a public hearing process, because of the size of the building. But yes, there will be one single building.
Cool.
Do you have any idea how many employees potentially it's going to be employ?
That's a good question. I think their current store in Ormond Beach, that they're operating out of, let's say they have close to 10 employees or so, 8 to 10 employees, but I can have a better answer for you.
Where the city police are going to park when they go to 7-Eleven. That's where they always park.
We're overparked, so I think they'll help with that.
Question on the stormwater, just because I didn't see it up there. And I've had to build these before, the underground and the retention, are they actually gonna have a hook together?
Yes, sir. So what we do
Okay.
is
Didn't see the green
an
going
underground pipe connection between. So
Slower.
So typically, what we'll do is we will pipe the underground
Okay.
filtration system to the dry retention pond. And so that you all know, and on this project, like we do on every other projects, we look at the existing conditions. We will study the existing basins and the runoff from each basin. In this case, there are two basins. There's a small basin on the east side of the property that drains easterly to the FDOT's right-of-way. I think everything connects to an inlet here. And then a larger basin drains westerly towards Robin Terrace. So that's what we sort of mimicked in the post conditions. We made sure that post-development outfall rates are below the pre-development outfall rates, but the city still has concerns, not only in terms of runoff quantity, but also structurally, stormwater billing-wise, how would everything work out? So this is complicating things for City of Daytona Beach. So we'll go back to the drawing board. If we need to make underground stormwater exfiltration system bigger, we will do that. We were also conservative and we did not run infiltration during storm events. I don't want to get too technical, but because we're on the beach side, sandy soils, we can introduce infiltration into our modeling that will further reduce the outfall rate. So we will have this issue resolved very quickly.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
What is the degree of slope in the back? Is it, just out of curiosity?
Everything is pretty flat
Flat?
here. I want to say 1% to 2% within the parking lot. There will be no steep slopes out here.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we can have a motion as presented or a motion with the contingency, stormwater.
I move to recommend approval of RSP 120220005 with the following conditions, with the exception of the stormwater issue that is being addressed.
Second?
Sherry, would you take the roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Tornatori?
Yes.
Mr. Horgan?
Yes?
Mr. Delange?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly?
Yes.
Mr. Schmitz?
Yes. And we're down to board comments. Do I have any comments from the board? Outside, do you want my job?
Yes, we.
I have a quick question. So, Stuart, in looking at previous things that we've approved, and then you drive by or you drive your bike by and you see no development and no nothing. And for instance, there's two properties that I'm curious about. There's the house that's almost to the end of our, where the houses are built, that we approved, it seems to me like 2.5 years ago, to be built because the variants were close and there's no construction, there's nothing done, no grading, no nothing. Can you give us an update on that?
You're talking about the one in Peninsula?
Where it was gonna be a four.
It's right on A1A.
Anyway.
It's next to the last house before the hotel. It's where the houses are,
Oh, okay. The
it was an Indian family that we.
Nashu, I believe it's Nashu. Yes, so they applied for a variance. It's my understanding that they have submitted their building permit application to the city, but there were some issues in terms of the building design that doesn't impact the variance that was approved by the board. So they're trying to work that out, and I have to admit that sometimes dealing with architects, it's not very easy with the building department, especially if you have an architect who is super busy or is from out of town. There's also some issues with regards to the FDEP permitting, meaning the state of Florida Department of Environmental Protection. But again, it's a back and forth, and sometimes, because it's not an urgency for either the property owner or for the architect or whomever is the coordinator of the project, these things just go through over time. It takes a little bit longer than you would expect at times.
But they haven't backed out. They're going to still go with the project.
No, it's my understanding that the permits have been submitted and they've been having issues meeting certain codes and certain state requirements, and so it's a back and forth to redesign some of the elements of the structure and the site.
The other property that I always have a question when I ride my bike by is the one that they split it into 4, and it was supposed to be townhouses, and it's right off. It's actually across from you, right on A1A, and it backs up to Peninsula, and they divided it into 4, and we approved one of them for construction, and then it's still, nothing has been cleaned.
Okay, I believe you're referring to the South Atlantic Avenue Estates property,
Yes.
and it's actual Cardinal Boulevard, if I remember correctly.
Oh, Cardinal, I mean.
Yes, so the property owner has sold off all 4 pieces of that subdivision, as far as I understand, and there is, I believe one was subsequently purchased, the one that was before the board and the council, because they wanted to amend their development agreement, has actually been sold to Miranda Homes, I believe it is, and they're nearing completion. If not, they have probably already approved approval from the building department, because Miranda Homes, they build a lot of homes throughout the state of Florida, and so they're really quick, and my understanding is that we turned it around really quickly, and they're going to start construction pretty soon.
So, but only on one of those, right?
Yes, the other ones have been sold, but a lot of these folks, they're either about to retire or they're from up north, and they're waiting until certain things, all the stars align in terms of the actual start construction. And so I think within the next couple of years, we're probably going to have more activity on those other 3 lots, but the one on the northwest corner that Miranda Homes owns, my understanding is that they've either gotten approval or they're near approval, and they will be starting construction sometime this year.
On a positive note, right across from us, that the place was condemned for a couple of years, they tore it down and did a great job. Whatever company tore that down did an excellent job. I mean, that place looks like there was no building on there whatsoever. They even repainted that wall.
I think all the accolades go to our code enforcement and building department for pushing to see that through.
Yeah. They did a very good job. Just
And
want
that
to,
one is actually in a new property owner as well, and hopefully we'll be seeing some action on that within the next few months or so.
no. Any preview of what's going to be there?
Another gift shop.
Oh.
We can't have never too many souvenirs.
But they really did a nice job. They really did.
you're right.
And fast.
We're gonna have to get you off your bike,
I know.
because you see too much, city.
Yes, ma'am.
How's Treasure Island doing?
Tony has a question.
Treasure Island, they, as you can see, you know, the building is pretty much down. And I say pretty much down because there are still some elements on the first level that are covered by rocks and whatever, debris, I should say. And whatever the debris around those are removed, then, you know, the demolition on those components and elements will be removed. But they are within schedule. My understanding is that, you know, they're really excited and that they will meet the deadline in terms of removing all the debris and getting the site restored. In terms of an actual future development, we haven't heard any word on that.
Well, as long as it's clean and grassy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tony?
Yeah. Stu, on the Holiday Inn, the signage, what's the status on that? I seem to be going by there every day and nothing seems to be happening. Where are we at with that?
So, so we are where we left it. My understanding is that they're still trying to figure out something that meets the satisfaction of the franchise owner and obviously Holiday Inn and obviously the city's land development code. But we haven't really had much action on that at all. And the reason why is because you may remember that the deadline to get the taller pole signs removed was in April of this year, but the city council approved a one-year extension. And so since the one-year extension, I think they feel like maybe the heat's not on them as much anymore, but obviously they'll have a whole year to have to get that sign down and actually meet the city code. But initially, they were trying to meet the deadline, and that's the reason why they were rushing to get the variance and whatnot. But since the variance was denied, they feel that they could come back with a design that meets the city code.
Could they appeal it?
Could they appeal? The deadline to appeal has elapsed. It's 30 days, and obviously 30 days has passed, so they won't be appealing that, to my knowledge.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you,
They'll
Stu.
wait until the last minute of the last month.
So we've actually, just so you know, I'm happy you brought that up. The city has actually notified all the property owners who have signs that are non-conforming, meaning, you know, the pole signs or the taller signs or whatever have you. And we have advised them that there was an extension, but we've also reminded them that the city council, in addition to doing the extension, they've also reintroduced the grant program to help them with the costs associated with removing the taller pole signs and putting in the new monument signs. And to be honest, we haven't had any action on that either. You know, prior to the deadline, we were getting tons of calls, and when the deadline was given and people found out about the grant program, it kind of simmered down a little bit. But I'm guessing, because we have a deadline for the grant program, which I believe is in November, December of this year, my guess is that prior to that deadline, we're going to be getting tons of applications. Because once that deadline passes, they wouldn't qualify for the grant.
Then they're going to code enforcement?
Yes, and so once they don't meet the deadline of April 2023, then they'll be getting a call and a letter from our code enforcement department.
And how much of the sign cost does the grant cover? Very little.
If I remember correctly, it's anywhere between $2,000 and $3,000, depending on the actual bid that's provided.
That's pretty
About
good.
20% of some
That's
money.
pretty good, yeah. Those are
Any
sturdy.
other comments by the board? The bicycle rider want to bring it up? In that case,
Have a nice 4th of July.
Thank you.
We should be able to keep those because.
See you July 18th.
I'll print.
we need a total.